Hey everyone, we are back with our next installment of interviews with Gian sharing his life story. In the previous interview, Gian shared some of his experiences with animals as a child, where he could play and communicate with specifically wild animals, and how that also changed the moment he got influenced by other adults who had certain ideas and fears about animals. And we got some very cool comment responses that Gian's going to share with you.
Yeah. So we got current responses from people watching my video on animal communication. Check it out. It's on YouTube, it's on Facebook. And let's get involved because this is going to be a story we're going to be telling, and there's going to be a lot more coming. As I said, it's going to go into life, into drugs, sex, alcohol. It's going to go into abuse and everything you see in this world. And that's where my story takes me through my life. But I have to start somewhere. And as a child, we start accepting and allowing fear. Now we got responses back from two patrons with Earthhaven on our videos, and this specific one, animal communication, from Camille Mari Bazari. And she says, very cool, Gian. The fear point within really messes me up. Animals, both pet and wild, seem to want to be near me, which I accept at first, and then in a moment I can feel my mind take over with a single thought, like this wave of energy that all of a sudden fills me. I remember a particular instance when I was holding Tree's boa constrictor. So I suppose this is a friend or just someone's boa constrictor. She was curled in my lap. My arm was underneath her chin. At some point, I allowed the thought of she's going to think the beating pulse of my wrist is a pinky, which is a feeder mouse. The second I had the thought, a wave of energy swept over my body, not even fast, but sly and encompassing. And when I reached my wrist, Tree's snake sunk her teeth into my wrist, not lashing out, but almost just listening to my thought and then doing that. It was such an interesting experience because I know it was my thought that prompted her. I was never mad at her for the action because, in a way, I know I asked for it. I've been practicing the fear, practicing dropping the fear, especially because I want my children to be fearless. Though it seems they have already been imprinted by another who has been around them because my daughter freaks out when even a fly is buzzing around. I specifically always stayed calm around bugs so that it wouldn't happen. But apparently, someone else's fear signature on that point imprinted on her when I wasn't around. So there's a couple of points there. That's very specific description of how the thought led to the physical resonant point within the person and the animal which was on the person, and specifically a snake, because a snake is cold-blooded. So they are very aware of heat and pulses, and they're very aware of that resonant point within people. So the moment she impulsed that fear, the snake picked up on it, and it's not even the snake's choice. He was just like, oh, I have to do this because he was feeling it. So that is one example of snakes. So another point to consider with animals is animals are all different in how they communicate, how they pick up on a person's presence. So you have, for example, bees that will sting you. You have wasps, you have snakes, you have scorpions, you have spiders, you have so many different animals, and they all work on a different level of picking up on fear, picking up on resonances. And one thing that I have always told Layla is that how I didn't get bitten by animals, all of them, was I was like a tree. I was like a tree. When you see a snake going up a tree, or a tiger, or a spider, they don't see the tree as something that they have to kill or fight. Even though the tree moves, the tree is alive, the tree, when there's wind, blows around, and the snake doesn't go, ooh, this wants to attack me, this wants to kill me. It's because of the resonance of the tree, which is just here, darkness, silence. So whenever that darkness and silence is filled with a thought, or filled with even just an experience, the tree doesn't become a tree anymore. It's now something else. And that's what animals pick up with people. So I've always trained myself to be like a tree. I don't give off anything. I am here to support, to assist, and that's who I am. So thank you very much, Camille, for that very detailed explanation of how you saw your thought influencing your body, influencing you, and influencing the snake. And it was like you could literally see the steps in how it all functioned. Now we've been imprinted to fear animals to such an extent we don't have to think about it anymore. It's just in our actions, just in who we are. And that's why animals don't even come close to us. That's why, okay, sometimes they do, but most of them, depending on the animal, will not. And that's why it's fighting or hurting or running away. And that's the nature that we've accepted as ourselves. We're this dominant species that just dominates and destroys and wrecks everything in its path. So with this, we have another one from Christina Salas, and she also shares a very similar story. And she responds to the video saying, "That's remarkable. When I was a kid, I had a couple of moments with dogs where, without hesitation, I interacted with them simply because they were here in my environment and I had not thoughts about who they were or their nature. Only after someone would say to me, 'I can't believe they let you pick them up,' I became aware of this knowledge that they don't like people. Fear would initiate within me in that moment, and the dogs would immediately respond to that fear. So those very cool moments actually of seeing how knowledge and information, and essentially fear, I accepted and allowed, influenced how animals responded to me. Really enjoyed hearing your experience with the wild animals, nature. Gian, thanks so much for sharing. I can see why you would want to get back to that. I'm with you on that, for sure. Let's remove this knowledge and information and fear from ourselves and show nature we can be trusted again. And there again, dogs in your reality. That thought, that knowledge, that information, which plants a seed, and that seed grows and becomes a tree, the tree of knowledge and information, instead of the tree of life. Now, when that seed is planted, it's too late. It's growing. And everyday life in the system impulses that seed, feeds that seed. Fear, 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 fear. So how do we step outside of that fear? How do we get beyond that fear of what everything is based on knowledge and information? Because we're not really finding out. So if you look at my story and how I was able to collect snakes, play with scorpions, play with spiders, go into the bush and animals would come to me and I could talk to them, I could do things with them. How was that possible? In what nature is that possible as we know the world? So for me, it showed that there's something else we don't know about this earth, about this planet, about the animals that we still need to get back to. And everyone, I believe, has an experience like that. Because I see so many people do share, they remember something of communication or interaction of animals. Now there was nothing and now there is something. So for me, it's very important that we have training, take the time, get to see our fears, stop our fears. On the Destiny Farm, I had parrots, who I specifically used to train myself and train people, because we had 5 of them. And each one of them reacted differently to different things. And it was so unique to have those 5 parrots and to see how they react to fear, insecurities, ego, anything, any energy, that each one would react differently. And we could work with them in process. And for this, we have to find a way to support ourselves back to nature. Because we are destroying Earth. We are destroying nature. We are destroying this planet, even if we like to admit it or not. For example, we have a taxi driver here in Panama, and he gives us a lift every week to go do our gas and shopping and so on. And he's 51 years old. Now, he grew up in this exact neighborhood we are in. And he said to me when he came and picked me up, he said, 40 years ago, there was lush forests here. Huge trees, 30, 40, 50 meters tall. And he says there was animals. And he says, now when you look at it today, if you just look behind me, there's no lush forest. He says to you, the newcomer, this looks normal, this looks tropical, this looks luscious. But he says when he was a kid, there was just jungle. And then they came in and they cut down all the trees for the wood to make furniture, cheap furniture, quick furniture. and the animals are gone with that forest. And that's why the growth is so small here, because it's all been chopped down. And not only that, they've divided all the land and to start selling it. So what they do is they keep the land flat. They don't allow trees and things to just grow back because it's lots and they have to sell lots. Even though no one's buying it for 40 years, they keep it there because, for money. So if we want to see our nature towards nature, it's very destructive, it's very fearful. And as the intelligent species of this planet, we have not come up with a solution to work one and equal with them. So are we truly intelligent? We can't even feed every single human on this planet. We cannot even give every single human on this planet a house, water, electricity. And we are supposed to be the intelligent dominant species, which is actually not true if you look around you. We're just the dominant destructive species. So that's me for now. Layla, any questions?
Well, one of the points that came up was that when you have a fear reaction, for instance, with animals, there's an immediate feedback on how your fear influences reality. But we don't only experience fear with things like animals. I mean, we have concerns about money, relationships, so many things, and that also influences reality. Maybe you can share more about that aspect.
So if we take it from animals and nature to people, essentially.
Yeah, to people, and essentially how you actually shape your life according to that which you're impulsing.
Well, I have a story again. Um, I grew up in South Africa. I went to a school called Vereniging in the town called Vereniging, and it wasn't a very rich town. Most people were poor, living in poor areas, doing factory jobs, and there was a lot of crime. So I had 8 friends at that time, and most of them has gotten robbed or was part of a hijacking, and even some have gotten stabbed in the streets outside the school for their phone, for 10 rand, which is not even a dollar in their pocket. And they would always talk about hate, how they hate the town, how they hate the poverty, how they hate everything, and they would always be angry for the environment they live in. Now, anger also can translate to fear because you use anger as a defense mechanism.
Yeah, it's kind of like mask your
Yes,
powerlessness.
so you look powerful. Yet all of them has gotten a situation by just walking out to school, and boom, they get robbed. Or they drive in the car with their brother, boom, they get hijacked. Someone breaks the window, puts a gun to their head, and say, "Give me everything you got." Then me, who didn't live in that neighborhood, but I went to school there, I had to spend most of my days till 6 p.m. in the neighborhood. I would walk the streets flat. I would go where I want. I would go to my dad's business. I would walk around. And I did this for 4 years. And never did I get robbed. Never did anyone approach me. Never did anyone do anything to me. And I believe this is part of my animal communication because I didn't have that extensive fear since I was a kid. And so I did develop fear towards animals because of what people said. But I had a natural resonance of not being fearful, trusting myself. And so there you can see how my friends who had this, always talk about it, get into it, get angry, yet at the same time be fearful, and there they get robbed, they get stabbed, and things like that happen. But in me, who had not that knowledge, information firsthand, I was able to walk around in the streets with the poor people, with the gangsters, with the drug dealers, all of them, all around you all the time. And you can see them. It's not a mystery who they are. Not approaching me, not stabbing me, not stealing my stuff. And I didn't look poor. Like you can see I have some money because I wasn't poor. But they didn't come after me. It's just because of who I was. And I didn't accept and allow fear to control and decide extensively who I am. So for me, that was very interesting to see and to live within how people's fear would have a one and equal feedback as a system. It's not just as someone robbing you, it's in your relationships. You fear your partner cheating on you. There's so many fears we can have in a relationship. not being loved, not being cared for it. Uh, and we can already anticipate all of that, live according to that, and give off a resonance, and the system can attract and do things to you one and equal. So that was very interesting to see as well. But Leila, if you have a perspective on that from your side.
Well, I think it's like everyone knows a person or is that person where it's like, how do they keep getting themselves in those type of situations? You know, where it's like they always get into an accident or they always end up in a relationship with a particular type of person that is just doesn't work for them, yet
Yeah.
it keeps happening over and over. And that's that same point of like with the animals, how you're constantly resonating something, and that's how you draw that into your reality.
So let's end the video with this. In the comment section, what is something that reoccurs in your life over and over that you're like, why is this happening to me all the time? Right? So you can say like, why are you the one always getting robbed? Or why do you always get the boyfriends or the girlfriends that do a certain thing? Why is something specific always happening in your life? Let's see what we have in the comment section from each one watching the video, and leave your story, and we can read it in the next video coming and share it with everyone as well. So be aware it will be shared.
Well, also another point is that it shows how who you are can negatively impact your life and your reality, but at the same time, it's also the solution.
Yes.
Meaning, if you start embodying and living something else, then equally you start creating and influencing reality in
Yes.
that sense.
Yeah, so the same way we have that bad stuff, we can have the good stuff. This is not law of attraction, it's just who you are. So keep it real. All right. Thank you.